Want to know how to structure your nursing reflection? Then listen up. Hello, you're on Shift with Sian, the platform that empowers student nurses with the knowledge, the tools and the support to build confidence in practice. Today we're going to have a look at what a reflection is, how to decide what to reflect on, and how to structure it using a nursing reflection model. I'm going to walk you through how to structure your reflection using the Gibbs reflective cycle, breaking down each of its 6 sections so that you can get better marks in your assignment. So what is a nursing reflection then? So a reflection is a structured way of examining your own experiences in clinical practice. It's about taking a step back to think critically about something you did, observed or learned. This could be on placement, simulation or a classroom activity, and then asking yourself what went well, what didn't go so well, and what you could have done differently next time. It's not about just describing what happened, it's about analysing the situation, connecting that theory to professional standards and showing how it will shape your future practice as a nurse. In simple terms, it's the process of turning your experience into learning. So when do we reflect? For university assignments, so reflective essays, portfolios or assessments. In clinical practice documentation, so reflective logs or practice diaries. For personal development plans, such as the ones using mentorship or supervision meetings. And for personal reflection also, so putting thoughts to paper that won't necessarily be seen by anyone else as your way of journaling for your own mental health. And then later in your career, reflection becomes an essential part of your NMC revalidation, which the link to that revalidation requirements is in the description. So do you have to use a reflective model to structure your reflection? Well, there are a few structured models that you can use to guide your reflection. You don't have to use one, but the markers usually prefer it because it keeps your writing organised and stops you from going off topic. Using a model also helps you to balance your word count across the sections, making your reflection flow a little bit better. Really, it's not about which model you choose, it's about how much detail and critical thinking that you include. That's what's going to get you those top marks. How to decide what to reflect on then? One of the hardest parts of writing a nursing reflection is deciding what to reflect on. A common mistake is thinking that you need a big dramatic event, like an emergency or a rare condition. And in reality, the simplest experiences often have the most impact. If you pick something complicated, you'll spend all of your word count describing the event and not analysing and showing what you've learned. And these are really where you're going to get those extra marks. So keep it simple and focused. For example, pick one observation like blood pressure or oxygen saturations rather than the whole of the news too. Use a reflection from your current placement if you can. That way you can research it and link it to theory and apply your learning immediately. It also helps boost your confidence because you can see how reflection improves your practice straight away. If you did want to use a model, the Gibbs reflective cycle is one of the most popular in nursing, and for good reason. It gives a clear step-by-step structure to reflect on your feelings, your actions, analysis and what you're going to do next. It's perfect for essays, placement journals or OSCE debriefs. I have made for you a free nursing reflection prompt to use while you're writing any reflection. So head over to my website, it's www.shiftwithsian.co.uk and you'll find it under the free resources tab. I'll put it in the description as well. So pause this, go and download it now so you've got it ready for when you're writing any kind of reflection. So let's break down now the 6 stages of the Gibbs model. So the first stage then of the Gibbs cycle is description. So what happened? This is the foundation of your reflection. It sets the scene clearly, but keep it brief and factual. You're not writing a novel. You're laying out the situation. What to include, where you were, so what placement type, what ward were you on, who was involved, so the patients and the other staff, what you were doing or were asked to do in that situation and why it was significant. Writing tips then for your first stage. Avoid unnecessary backstory. Focus only on the learning moment. Use third person names like patient A or the staff nurse to protect identity. For assignment word count, keep this section short. You don't have the words, you'll need them later for the analysis. You won't need any references because it's your experience as you see it. Section 2 then is feelings. So what were you thinking and feeling? This part is all about emotional honesty. And now many students skip this because it feels awkward, but this section shows self-awareness, which the markers love. So what to include in this section then? How you felt before, during and after the event, but be specific. Feelings like anxiety, pride, frustration or relief. How those feelings might have influenced your actions. What thoughts ran through your mind. Writing tips for this section then. Keep it professional. It's fine to admit emotions, but focus on how they're related to your learning. For example, if the cat knocked your cup of tea off this morning, you're coming in a mood, you need to keep it centralised to the actual situation, how you felt in that moment. Go deeper then. I was nervous. Explain why. For example, fear of making a mistake, wanting to impress your mentor, or worrying about patient comfort. Adding that because shows reflective depth, and that's where you earn those higher marks. Section 3 then is the evaluation. What was good or bad about that situation? Now it's time to assess the situation, what worked well and what could have been better. What to include in this section. So the positives, what went smoothly, what went right, and what you learned. The negatives, what was challenging and what you'd improve. Also in this section, add any feedback you received from mentors, patients or relatives. Writing tips then for this section, the evaluation, keep it balanced. Don't only focus on the mistakes. When you're writing and you're prepping to do this, use bullet points in your draft to list the positives and negatives and then turn them into paragraphs. Support your points with small bits of evidence like trust policy or national standards. Section 4 then is the analysis. Why did things go well or not so well? This is the most important and heavily graded section of your reflection. It's where you show the critical thinking. You're not just describing what happens, you're analysing why. So what to include in this section then? So the reasons behind your actions or feelings, theories and models coming into this section that explain your behaviour, evidence-based guidelines, so trust policies or research, and how this connects to your future nursing practice. Writing tips for the analysis section then. So use the nursing theory to back up your points. So for example, Benner's novice to expert, Kolb's learning cycle or the NMC code you can add in there too. Bring in relevant evidence like NICE guidelines or trust policies that support your decisions, and avoid using vague statements. Show that you understand the why. Use phrases like this links to so-and-so NICE guideline or this reflects King's theory of goal attainment to make your analysis flow more naturally. Section 5 then is the conclusion. So you are saying what you could have done differently. This section wraps up your learning and summarises what you've gained and what you do differently next time. So what to include in the conclusion section, a short summary of key takeaways, how you'll change your practice next time, and focus on learning, not blame. Writing tips for this section, keep it short and to the point. It's a short paragraph in comparison to the rest, and it summarises what you've already said. Don't criticise yourself really harshly. Use phrases like in the future I would or next time I will. Link back to standards to show that you understand how your learning will improve patient care. And say, I've learnt the importance of blah, 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 because this shows growth. The sixth and final section of the Gibbs cycle is the action plan. This is where you say what you will do going forward. Now, this is the final stage which turns your reflection into real improvement. It's where you show the markers that you are taking responsibility for your learning. What to include in this section? Specific, achievable actions. Any training, reading or mentorship plans that you will do, and think about how you'll measure progress. So think SMART goals. Writing tips for this section, be realistic. Don't promise to master everything immediately. Focus on one or two things here. Mention how you'll apply your learning to improve patient care. So are you going to do extra training, attend a skills workshop, or do some research in a specific area, or get more exposure to something? So those are the 6 stages of the Gibbs reflective cycle. Using this model will help your reflection flow like a story from what happened to how you'll grow as a nurse. Now let's look at some common mistakes and my final tips on mastering your nursing reflection. Common mistakes then in your nursing reflection assignment: writing a diary instead of a structured analysis, and this is where your nursing model will come in and help you to structure your reflection. Focusing only on what happened without the analysis. The analysis is where the critical thinking comes in, and it's here where you get those bigger marks. Forgetting confidentiality. Now, never include patient names or any identifying details. Not linking to professional standards or relevant evidence. So it's great to have theories, but markers want to know that your practice is up to date and aligned with those gold standards. Missing an action plan. If you don't say what you've learnt and what you're going to do about it, it's not a reflection, it just becomes a chat about your day. So my final tips then for writing your nursing reflection: choose a specific experience rather than a broad one. Avoid complex. You get no extra marks for it being an interesting case. Be honest, a reflection is about learning, not perfection. They need to know that you are aware of weaknesses and areas for improvement. Link theory to practice throughout, not just in that analysis section. Make sure you proofread for grammar, flow and referencing accuracy. Don't lose marks over silly things like those. Keep it within the word limit, but rich in insight. Think description, low word count, analysis, more words. So that is how you write a nursing reflection. Don't forget to download that nursing reflection prompt free from my website. Use it for your next reflection, whether it's at uni, for an assignment, on your placement, or for your NMC revalidation. And if you found this video helpful, hit like, subscribe, and check out my other nursing videos for more real life tips on surviving and thriving in your nursing degree. Be kind to yourself, we've got this.